pilgrims, and they were afraid of being persecuted. So they all got in a boat and sailed to the New World where they wouldn't have to be scared ever again.
Oh, I'm so relaxed. I feel so much safer.
But as soon as they arrived, they were greeted by savages, and they got scared all over again. So they killed them all. In 1775, they started killing the British so they could be free. And it worked, but they still didn't feel safe. So they passed a Second Amendment which said every white man could keep his gun. I loves my gun. Loves my gun. Which brings us to a genius...
There from Michael Moore's Academy Award-winning Bowling for Columbine. He's back with me now exclusively. So, Michael, this morning, in preparation for this, I watched the movie again from start to finish. And some fascinating things to observe in that movie. One, how little, really, America has moved on. In fact, you could argue it's moved backwards with, in terms of guns, gun control, and so on. Secondly, a few things came out of me. One is that Aurora is 17 miles from Littleton. And that must have sprung out at you too, just how very close these two massacres were to each other. Young children involved, the same kind of reaction from the gun lobby. You had Charlton Heston going down there, appearing at NRA rallies after that incident, and also another one, which I'll come to later, involving a young girl who was killed in Michigan. When you made the movie, and it came out 10 years ago, it was the 10th anniversary now, did you expect more to be done about guns? Did you expect the impact of both the massacre in Columbine and your movie to have more effect than it's had?
Well, this is the continuing problem I have with all my movies, because I am an optimist at heart. I'm not a cynic. And so when I made Roger and Me, my first film, 22 years ago, I thought that would wake people up about General Motors and corporate America, and sound a big warning bell. Didn't happen. Bowling for Columbine. I just had a feeling this was, you know, we were having these occasional mass killings then. Now we have them pretty much on average every month. Somebody goes into the office or a school or a neighborhood or whatever, and a bunch of people are killed. So I mean, this is my. I made a film that at the beginning of the Iraq War, so that we weren't going to find any weapons of mass destruction. So I'm used to my films having little effect on making the world a better place. I think they educate a lot of people in that, but I don't hold the kind of political power I would need to actually make things better. I want to say this about the thing about Littleton, though. You said 17 miles away. I've spent a lot of time out there in Littleton and Aurora and Denver while I was making the movie, and since I made the movie. And, you know, there's another whole thing to discuss about this. It'd probably take another show. You know, people forget that I think there was another gun massacre in Aurora where I think 4 or so people were shot and killed at a Chuck E. Cheese. Guy went in there and just senselessly killed these people. Of course, every killing is senseless. So, but you know, that hasn't really been brought up. That this isn't just Columbine. It's not just last Friday. Even in Aurora itself, it happened. So this is, sadly, I think it's just something that's going to continue because
what came through, Michael?
Our policies.
What came through strongly from the movie, and what has come through strongly from all the reaction I've seen in the last few days, is this adherence that so many millions of Americans put on the exact wording of the Constitution, the Second Amendment. This famous piece of literature, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. And depending which side of the coin you decide to place yourself, this is either referring specifically to a militia, or it is referring to an individual. And you can argue it either way. I mean, you know, I interviewed Justice Scalia last week, and he'll tell you it's all about the actual interpretation intended by the Founding Fathers. But obviously, as Mayor Bloomberg told me last night, you know, A, we don't really know what they meant, but B, what we do know is that they didn't anticipate the kind of weaponry we'd have today. Let's watch a clip from him last night.
Right.
And you'll see what I mean.
Everybody wants to preserve the right of people that want to use guns for sport, hunting, or target practice to have the right to do so. But that doesn't mean you have an assault weapon. That doesn't mean you have a rifle that's advertised as able to bring down a commercial airliner at 1.5 miles, or bullets that are designed to go through bullet-resistant vests. Those are very different things.
Now, that would be my view entirely, but let's watch what Ice-T, the rapper, said yesterday about his interpretation of the Second Amendment.
The right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny. Not to hunt. It's to protect yourself from the police.
And do you see any link between that and these sorts of incidents?
No. Nah, not really. You know what I'm saying? If somebody wants to kill people, you know, they don't need a gun to do it.
Makes it easier, though, doesn't it?
Not really. You can use, you can strap explosives on your body. They do that all the time.
No, there you have the two very different views. I would say there are millions and millions of Americans who would park themselves into Mayor Bloomberg's side of the argument, and millions more, probably more actually in total, who would agree with what Ice-T said. How do you deal with this going forward? How do we deal with the constitutional divide that America has over how that is interpreted?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna argue it both ways, because I think you can make a valid argument, sort of, on both sides. Not the last part, that part that Ice-T said about that reducing them wouldn't reduce. That's been proven. If you reduce the guns and the ammo, you'll reduce the murders. And somebody strapping a bomb on themselves, that's a whole different animal that we have to deal with in these times. But I think, first of all, this must seem odd to people in other countries that we view our Constitution as if it was written by God himself, that it was somehow through some sort of divine intervention or whatever, it was etched in stone like Moses in the tablets, and because what they thought was right in 1776 to 1789, that is the way we have to live today in the 21st century. I mean, we wouldn't go to a doctor and have him put leeches on us to suck the blood out of us, because that would cure us. That's what they did, you know, 150 years ago. We kind of evolve. So I think it's a safe bet, and I think the people who are the NRA and the so-called gun supporters, I think if they were intellectually honest, and I think it's okay to use that word, the other word, I think that they would admit that the Founding Fathers, when they said militia, they meant we got to be able to round up all the farmers and the merchants and everybody, get your gun, because the British are coming back. And they were afraid of that. They still were dealing with the world's largest power at the time when we got our independence. Or when they said the right to bear arms, I think, you know, the arm back then was you could only fire one shot at a time. You had a little ball-bearing like bullet, and you had to stuff it in the thing, and then you had to do this and gunpowder, and you know, it took you about 15 minutes before you could fire one shot. Now, if the Founding Fathers could have looked into a crystal ball and seeing AK-47s and Glock semi-automatic pistols, I got a feeling they wouldn't. I think they'd want to leave a little note behind and probably tell us, you know, that's not really what we mean when we say bear arms. So I think that I think most intelligent people would see that it kind of makes sense what they were thinking. I don't think we have to go back into their minds at all. And I wish that we would just live in this century. I think they'd want us to do that. We've evolved in other ways. We allowed women to vote. We decided that slavery was a bad idea. You know, we've gotten rid of a lot of those bad ideas from the Founding Fathers, and this is probably one that is not necessarily a bad idea, but one that can easily be clarified with 21st century language.
One of the problems, of course, is that there's no real political leadership about this. I mean, I've been staggered, I have to say, having started this show when Gabby Giffords was shot, which was about a week before I went on air, to see nothing happen after that, and then to see the worst single shooting in the history of the United States, and still have no senior politician, neither the president nor the man who wants to replace him as president, Mitt Romney, have said anything about guns or gun control, as if it is not an issue that even needs to be discussed. Let's come back after the break, and I want to ask you why. Why is there this extraordinary wall of silence from America's political leaders?